There we are. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ask the Trainer on this beautiful April spring day, unless you're in the southern hemisphere where it's autumn. How's everyone? Checking the chats on the Maxon YouTube channel, the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel. Hello, Oliver. Uh, is my Derman? Who else do we have here? Andreas Walsh, Daniel Schmidt. Oh, he can't make it. Uh, Tugberg, how are you, brother? Hope you're well. And Dean Mellis. Hello, Dean. Ryan Sears and famous Java. Java is famous. Designed audio, nodes, no. But that's a different conversation. So I hope I'm audible. And if I can get some sort of feedback that you can hear me, just one post that everything is working fine. My audio is coming through, and you can see me. I can see myself. Audio, sound good. Excellent. Thank you very much, Andreas. So let's quickly start with the housekeeping. So I'm going to bring this up. If you go to maxon.net, ask your question, this link over here, and I'm going to be copying and pasting stuff. So let me just go to the comments here. I'm doing sole production today, so things are going to go wrong. I promise you that. Go there and you can fill this form to ask questions. But during the show, you can also ask your questions in the chat. Whether I'll be able to get to them, that's a different story. And if you want to check out all the events that are happening, I think there are links to all these things here. If you go upcoming live streams and whatnot, and all these links here are relevant to our live shows. But if you want to see generally the events and catch up with all the releases and stuff, just go to the events page, which I'm going to copy and paste in the chats. Excellent. If you happen to not catch this live, because we are streaming live both on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel and the Maxon YouTube channel, but all the videos, if you want to watch them later on, are only hosted on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel, so that you have a single place to find them and go and check out all the quick tips and all that other fantastic stuff and the shows from my lovely colleagues as well. And don't forget to, these days we have NAB as well. So go and check out the NAB streams. There's so much content. You can actually retire from motion graphics or whatever other things you do and just watch content and tell your employers that you are learning, because you are. Visit the Maxon ZBrush YouTube channel to learn this fantastic sculpting, the best sculpting program in the universe, as far as we know. And if you want to be certified as a trainer or as a user, go here, check the topics list to get an overview of what is required to know Cinema 4D to an extent where you are productive in a studio. Just check out these topics, open these, and find out. We are going to update this soon with more of the current features. Go here and, yeah, I don't know the passcode. Let me just ask passcode, please. I've got a lot of open fronts here. So let me paste this lovely little link here. And, it says my internet connection has something. In any case, there you can use the passcode. I'm going to post soon to get a free t-shirt, and there's one t-shirt every month. And go to university, and there have been, since the announcement last week, we have the new particle system, which I think I did a show last week, didn't I? Yes, I did. And I've added a particle workflow techniques extra little series. I produced two of them, a general overview, which is a short form, only 1.5 hours of general things where the particles are, then a more detailed one, another 3 hours, 8 minutes and 6 seconds worth of content, and now another 5 videos that show you how to do actual things. Logan, how's it going in the cold parts of Canada? the cold parts of Canada. That's oxymoron. The last thing I want to say is don't forget to visit the old university because we have unlimited hours of training there with so cool features, especially the MoGraph tutorials by Dr. Sassy, which are timeless and um, infinitely timeless. And they may be done using older software versions, and the interface is slightly different, but all the information is relevant. Great. So what I can do now is put this down, show my face. I'm going to switch to a bigger screen later on. Oh, I can do this. See, I'm producing. I can do whatever I want. If you have general questions that require some sort of scene, I do want to talk about. Let me show myself. I want to talk about the subject of asking questions because it's quite important. Try and be very specific on what you're doing because there's always a bit of context that we may be missing when you ask a question. If you say, for example, I'm extruding an object and it doesn't work, are you using an extrude capsule, a nodal capsule? Are you using a spline, an extrude object? Are you doing manual extrusion? They're all extrude operations, but they're very, very different in the way they work. And also, if you need to share a a scene, what you could do, and let me see if it exists here somewhere around my banners. There we go. You can always go on Twixer and DM me or Jonas with descriptions and stuff like that. We happen to be quite responsive, or just post your questions using the form. Excellent. So let me hide this. And last but not least, before asking a question in the chat, please preface it with capitalized question. It's going to be easier for me. I have 6 monitors in front of me, plus my video feedback, and a few other monitors in the back. I don't look at that. That's for you. Right? That's just the background. So I can distinguish any questions from general comments and compliments. That's what I wanted to say. I got up early today, so I may be slow in my thinking. Good. So I'm going to go back to the comments and let's see if anyone has started a question. No question. And thank you, Ismail Derman. When the shows are live, you can ask questions there. But if we're not, if we're in between shows, please use the form. Good. Let me see. Anything else? Question. Okay. I'm going to start. All right, let's show this. Can you show a quick way to get an object buffer out of a Redshift render? I think you need object buffer, an AOV, I would assume. Now, what I would advise you to do is watch Lionel Visidomini's Demystifying Post-Production that talked about AOVs and compositing in Redshift. And it was 4 weeks packed with information about how to use them, how to do your color management, how to do all that. So all the information is there. I will show you very quickly how to do that. And let's share a screen here. This is part of some other questions I'm planning to answer from the list. But in any case, so usual startup layout, I'm going to create very quickly 2 spheres overlapping so we can see them here. And I don't know, you want to add colors? You don't need to add colors to do that. Now you can go to the Redshift Advanced and get your AOVs here. And my favorite AOV when it comes to, let me move this over here. Oh, actually, I'm going to go to my Redshift layout so we can see what we're doing. Here. There we go. And you can also bring the AOVs from one of these AOV manager over here. So there are many different ways. My favorite way is the puzzle mat. So you go down here and you look for puzzle mat. So you add the puzzle mat. And the puzzle mat, the reason I like it is that you can select a material ID or object ID. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, I know I'm digressing a bit. I'm going to add 2 materials to these objects. And let's go and make base properties, one sort of reddish or whatever that color is, and the other one blue, not reflection, but here let's do it bluish. There we go. So we have these two. Now, if you want to see the correct AOVs, always make sure you're in bucket mode. And over here, you're going to get a list of your AOVs. Now, for the materials, because it's not very obvious, the ID for the material exists in the output. If you go to the output, you see material ID. And let's set for this material ID the number to 1. Let's go to the blue one and go to the output and set this to 255. Okay. So we have two material IDs. One is 1, one is 255, because I use a random number here. At the same time, if you want to tag the objects with IDs, you do need a render tag in a Redshift object, and you go to object ID, and I'm going to name, say this object has an ID of 5, and I can go and copy it down and say this has an ID of 10. So 5 and 10. I'm taking notes because I'm going to forget. And the other one is material is 1 and 255. I'm not mistaken. I forget. That's what happens with old age. There you go, 1 and 255. So let's go and create the puzzle mat. And let's say I want the red material, which has a material ID of 1. You say material ID of 1. The question is, in which channel? Now, we know that every RGB image has 3 channels that are distinct: the red, the green, and the blue. And when they mix additively, they create all the other colors. You can say that for the red channel of this puzzle mat, and you can have as many puzzle mats as you want. I want in the red channel the material ID 1, in the green channel nothing, and the blue channel the material ID 255. Okay, now I'm going to add another puzzle mat, a second puzzle mat 1, which is going to be an object ID. And on green channel, I'm going to put object ID 5. And on the blue channel, I'm going to put object ID 10. What we should see here is for the puzzle mat 1, which has to do with the colors, we get on the red channel the object mask of the object that's tagged with 1, and in the blue channel the one that's tagged with 255, and that's the materials. If I go to puzzle mat 2, well, the next one, now let's click on this. I get the green ID, which is the green material object, which is the second one, I guess, and the other one in the blue. So that is how you get that. And if you go to your compositing program and extract the blue channel from there, that's what you get. This is my favorite method. It's simple. You can add as many as you want. You have for one image up to 3 different IDs, and it's very easy to extract it in After Effects or Photoshop or anything you want. So this will provide a solution for what you're asking for. Okay, so let me do. It's still cold, Logan says. Of course it's cold. It's cold here in Quebec as well. I moved to Quebec, by the way. Just saying that. So that has been answered. Now, Ahmed, my rigid bodies, I'm just going down this list, don't match with rigid body collisions. Are you talking about bullet? Are you talking about the rigid bodies? Supply me with a very simple scene. Simplify it, remove anything that's redundant, send it to my Twitter DM or something like that, or you can email it to the Ask the Trainer email, or use the form, because yeah, it's something we'd like to see first to be able to provide an answer. Famous Java. I did see your question about scattering on a terrain. The simple answer. So the question was, let me uncover this question. Right. So let me copy this here, go to my banners. There's a process, create a banner, then paste this in here and add the banner. It doesn't fit. Tricky to explain, but I've built a terrain which needs to be able to change procedurally so I can bake any shaders. The basic question for this is, can we use Redshift materials to affect essentially MoGraph using a shader effector? The answer is no. I'm very sorry to say that, but Redshift materials cannot be read in the shader effector. You will need to do it the opposite way around. So, or remake the shader effector in a similar way. So that's the answer with that. Now, maybe there's a very specific way to do it indirectly. I'm not absolutely sure, but the short answer is no. The MoGraph and the shader effector can only be affected by standard materials, and that's unfortunately the simple answer. Let me go back to the comments here. Um, Let me tag a few questions. Abdallah, hello. Let me tag a few questions so I don't miss them. Good. So let's see the next one. I haven't even read it. So how can I set the real world size of a texture so it is scaled correctly on the geometry? Um, Real world size. What does this? What do you mean exactly? Scaling a texture, you can scale the projection. There are many different ways to scale something depending on the projection or what you're doing. Are you uh, trying to get send me a sample of what you're trying to do? um, the correct real world is relative, right? What do we mean? What do we mean by real world? So yeah, please, if you can be a bit more specific, and yeah, again, Twitter will be the best thing to DM me the answer, the question. Okay, let's see this one. Ariane, nice hair. I used to have hair like that, right? I'm telling you, everyone. Is there a way to morph between two objects while retaining their respective textures and UV and morphing between them as well? My guess would be maybe using SDF somehow. Okay, so morphing between two objects in Cinema 4D's context, which you can do, requires the same topology. So let's go here and let's do something. Let's assume I want to get a cube and I want to morph it into a sphere, right? I can't just take a cube and a sphere and tell these two to morph. That's why you're suggesting the SDF solution. But you want to retain UVs and all that nice stuff. Well, that's a tricky one. In this particular case, what we would do is we would start with the object we can convert to the other one. And then I'll make a copy of this and apply, I don't know, spherify, for example. Let's see a spherify there is, and set it to 100%. So, you know, we have these two objects now, and you can do a current state to object. I'm just doing it very, very quickly. Have a sphere and a current state to object here, or make it editable. So these two objects, oops, I said editable, not deleted. So these two objects have the same topology, right? And this means that UVs and all that are going to map from one to the other, despite what method you're going to use to morph them. When you're talking about two heterogeneous objects with different topologies and whatnot, so let's take this for example, and you know I can go and say let's remesh this. So it has a totally different topology. There you go. Now the problem with these two is that there is no way to blend them. If it's going to blend, it's going to blend between the UVs because they have different UV sets. So if you shift double click here, you see this is one UV set, and if you shift double click here, you can see the other UV set. They're very different, and we cannot do that. This would require some sort of attribute transfery thingy, which we don't have. Now it may be possible for a specific case to do some gerrymandering, some little in between conversions or something like that, and get it to morph in an adequate manner. That will require, again, a scene. So please hit me up. I know I'm going to repeat this many times today. Hit me up on Twitter, DM, do a simplified example, and we can go through the details of how potentially, if possible, we can do that. There are solutions. So people have asked for nodes and all sorts of nice things. And now my focus is mostly on particles, which is a robust and really new technology. And I don't have much time to deal with other stuff. But there are ways to wrangle the data using nodes as well, if you know what you're doing, if you can think in a programmatic way. So send me a scene. Maybe we can find an example. And one thing I want to remind everyone, I'm going to put my face on the big screen now. Lately, I've been asked questions on Twitter, and I will not call it X, right, on Twitter. Twixer, I think that's the best name. I've been asked the questions, and I've made quick tips about those things. So I reply to the user that asks a question, and then I make a quick tip, because your questions is a big part of how we develop various training techniques. So this could be a very interesting test case to see how we could potentially solve it for at least a subset of the cases. Excellent. So let me go down my list. Something about Redshift and Octane. I don't use Octane, so any comparisons and all that. Is there a question above? I do not know. You can ask the question. Um, okay, and what I'm going to do now, I'm very quickly going to go to my question list, questions that have been asked um, through the through the through the form. And let's see. One question says, I'm going to copy and paste it. Let's go and make a banner here. Ba-ba-da-bum-bum. I'm multitasking and I'm not good at multitasking. There are sampling overrides for things like GI, reflection, refraction, AO, subscattering, and so forth. Can I adjust the samples for anything that is not covered with these? You can adjust the samples in many parts in Redshift, including materials and stuff like that. If you're looking for something very specific, ask about that. Oh, it says different channels. There's a continuation of this question. Let me bring that one up. Boop. Copying and pasting seems to be my kryptonite. I can't do it. And again, it crops the banner to 200. So let's see if we can get some information. I checked the different channels of the AOV manager. It doesn't use any. Here it says, well, very little refraction, the specular, and especially the shadow channel. I want to see a scene. I want to see a scene to understand what we are talking about here. It was sent by anonymous. I've got a sheet in front of me, and it doesn't have a name who asked it. So let's go to the next question. That was the terrain. So yeah, unfortunately, the answer is that. Let's go and why can't copy and paste be easier? It's really tough to live in a copy paste world. So let's see the other one. I downloaded animation from Mixamo. Is there a way to get F curves on Mixamo bones? What creates an F curve? Or should I add Mixamo control rig and get? Well, you don't get F curves because everything is keyframes. Right? Every frame has a keyframe. So let me remove my head from there, and let's go and get something from one of our own mocap. So I think you can type here mocap, and you get all these nice things, and you can see previews now when you hover over them. They're going to do their own thing. So let's just bring in this character over here. I can remove the remeshes. Now, if you go to your timeline, what you will see is that for every single one of the bones, you do get a single keyframe. And you zoom in and you go to your frames. So what you're seeing here are essentially F curves, but it goes linearly from one value to the other. And let's find, there you go. So here are your F curves, but they're at every frame. Now, there are ways to simplify these. Now, we did do some additions to the technology that does these things. So let's find a particular curve that has something interesting. Let's take this curve here. And I think in the F curve, did we create reduce? Reduce. There is I haven't used it, so I need to find it. A key reducer, I think. I think this is it. Where's the key reducer? So we did add something which I haven't um, dealt with. And let's put some, there you go. So what you can do, you can use this key reducer to, it will use some sort of filtering to take similar values and try and extrapolate workable uh, a workable spline from this. So what I would say is that if you do require F curve, so you can do more, in between changes for the speeds and all that, go to that particular animation channel and reduce the keys and see if that works for you. So the key reducer, but as far as F curves, these are F curves. It just happens that they are from one frame to the other, right? You can take a frame, you can change the value, but I'm sure that that's not what you are asking me to do. Okay, so that was a question about Mixamo. I can see the question mark, but it doesn't match the actual shape. I can see that. Yeah, providing with the scene, and we'll take a look at it and see if we can provide a solution. A general comment is that the new rigid bodies, they're still catching up to the Bullet. The Bullet had years of development behind it, the implementation of Cinema 4D. So it's still quite performant, not close to what the new rigid body system can do. But if you can find solutions using the old Bullet rigid bodies, I would suggest that it's a viable tool. It's not a deprecated feature. It still works fine. It's slower. And yeah, you can also find your solutions there if required. Let me close this and let me close this. And let's go and see the next one. All right, I'm going to copy this and see if I can fit it in a banner. Again, it doesn't, but hey, who cares? I'm going to paste it in double thing. So particles interacting with objects that I make. Collider work perfectly fine, interact great. But if I make an emitter with particles that are just floating in space, zero velocity, and then, all right, and then I'm copying the rest of the question. And then there you go. I'm copying all that. Let's create a new banner. Let's add the banner and then make a sphere a collider and make it move through them. Only some of them bounce off the sphere. Most go right through. Okay, good. That's a good question. All right, let's get on to the particle stuff. Now, the question is the following. I have my particle layout here. I even teach people that don't know how to make palettes and all that in the second video of the first series, how to do it. So let's go and get a basic emitter, right? And for whatever reason, let's say these are going very fast because it has to do with the speed. So they're going really fast here. Good. Let's set this to 300. Now I'm going to get a sphere. You right click and you make this a collider object. And of course, you go and add a collide modifier. And now let's press play and let's move the sphere. And you can, some particles will go through. So let's go here. Let me emit more. I mean, let's not be cheap about this. 10,000 particles is the best. So let's take the sphere and move it forwards and particles go through. Now, one of the reasons for this is the substeps. Now, we all know from simulation systems and all that, that when a particle is moving, and the best way to show this is to shoot one particle at a tremendously high speed. So I'm doing 5,000 centimeters per second. So, all right, there's a particle. That's on frame 1, okay? On frame 2, the particle is there. So if my sphere happens to be somewhere in the middle here, there's a good chance that that particle, it works here. Let's see if we make it go through, rewind. No, it's going well. Collide. Let's go and do on intersection. It's pretty good. Anyway, the setting we're looking for here is in the project settings. You go to simulation, particles, and it's the substeps. And the substeps helps in subdividing each frame into subframes so that these sort of calculations, when things are moving quite fast, are not caught from the frame by frame motion. So let's go back to the constant. Let's do this and see if we get some sort of improvement here. And you can see they're still going through. Maybe I need to go, yeah, because I've got substeps 1. Let's make it substeps 8 and move this. Still going through. 16. Let's see. Oh, are they going sideways or are they going through the sphere? I didn't check that. And something else, when you're moving things in the viewport, the calculation is slightly different. So let's go and animate this. I'm going to go frame 0. Let me move the frame here and let's move it here suddenly and see what that does. Let's go to the side view and see if that catches anything. Whoops. All right. Now let's go and increase this 32 and see what happens because the speeds are ridiculous, right? Let's see if these are going through or if they are getting deflected. So they are going through. So let's try something else. Let's go and increase. Let's use both radius and intersection. In this case, as far as I know, it's going to be a bit more. There you go. Let's do this again. And yeah, less particles are jumping out from the other side of the object. But in any case, increasing your substeps is one of the ways you're going to mitigate this. There's always sort of a limit how fast things can move. So if there's again a very specific scene that and this doesn't work, send it to me so we can work on um, other specific settings and see how that will work. But increasing the substeps is the main way to improve on the collision of objects. Okay. So let's go to the last questions of the list, which I may need. So I'm at cell 60. Let me see if any questions have been added. No. So let me see this one. Copy and new banner. Add banner. And let's show this. Is there a way to make a VDB morph effect between two objects while also morphing between the materials, saying UV data, the object, for instance, morph between a shoe and a mouse? You can morphing morphs between UVs, but it's going to be a linear morph from one position of a polygon UV to the other position of the equivalent polygon UV. And this only works with equally topological, with same topological objects that have the same point counts and same polygon counts and all that. Yep, that is. And again, if you want to see the specifics, do the mouse, do the shoe, or something simpler, and we can work on the specifics. But as far as general terms, we don't have generic ways to morph between the UVs if the topology of the objects is not the same. Okay, let me go back to the general comments here. Let me see where am I? Where am I? So do. Okay, let's start with a question about particle collision. That was Ryan's, so the particle collision. And Ryan, try that the substeps and tell me if it works, if you could right now. So I'm marking some of the questions to see which ones I can. So question, let's see, Pyro, colliders, another Q, capitalized question. All right, let me go through a few and then we can continue. Tugberg. COD has very cool simulation features, but baking start to be a bit confusing than before. You have tips for baking animation. I do something. Well, the go-to for me is Alembic, right? A couple of things you need to remember about the Alembic, and it has to do with baking complex objects. For example, if you have a running character or something like that. Oh, I need the puppet. I'm going to get a puppet, and I think this is the puppet I want. Boop. And take the puppet, go here and drag this as the source. And now we're going to get the person just doing his thing. I got the most boring animation of all the animations I could have gotten. I got the most boring animation of all. I don't believe this. So let's get something, at least someone is having a good time. And this is a great thing about the system, that you just switch, and there you go. And I can remove the other one. There you go. This is more exciting, isn't it? There's more like it. Let's go to startup. Now, let's say you want to cache this fella, all right? And you want to do this using, let me see how many keyframes do we have here. If you can't see any objects, so it's 130, right? So let me make it 130 here. And now this should loop as well. The best way, the way I see it, is to get the male puppet and put it under a connect object, remove the weld, and then call this person. Then right click and bake as Alembic. That is the easiest way to do your baking with this. It's non-destructive. You can always go to the original file when you replace a saver version of this, and then just do whatever work you do. But this is the caching. Now, for all the other types of caching, we have Pyro caching, which caches to VDB. Anything that is based on volume, so Pyro, you cache in VDBs. Anything that's mesh, you cache it to Alembics, and that's pretty much the general standard. So this is my go-to way to do things: is connect them, remove the weld, and cache this as a single Alembic file. So Pyro's colliders and balloon. The Pyro, again, as the Pyro is a VDB, and the colliders, you don't need to cache them. Balloons and soft bodies and all that, those are meshes, so they'll be cached in Alembic. Oops, let's so there's the way to spawn. Okay, there's a way to spawn new particles on collision with the current setup emitters. Yeah, that's an excellent question, right? So let's do that. It's one of the tutorials I haven't made yet. So what I'm doing right now, and I'm gonna show my face here. So what I'm doing right now is, in my spreadsheet of infinite things I need to do for particles, I'm adding collider and spawning. Good. So that's going to become a tutorial, but I'm going to show you anyway, because that's what we're here for. New scene, particle layout. Let me have a sip of water, if you don't mind. Cheers, everyone. Raise a glass to the developers of the particle system. Here, here. Nice. Water from the ground. That's how we drink here. So let's go and create an emitter. And I'm going to simplify this. I'm going to create one particle because I want to see that collide and spawn. Now, let's create our usual collider. Let's get a sphere here and make it a collider object. There we go. And for us to register the collision, we need the collide modifier. Good. So what's going to happen here is that the particle is going to shoot, and it's going to collide with that, providing I bring it forwards, because it's too far away. You don't need to work. Boink. And let's go here and increase the size. And we see the particle going boink. The main function that controls what you want to do is, in the collide, we have this target group. Okay. And with changing group, so let's create a new group, and we're going to name this collider collided. And we're going to tell the collision, upon collision, put that particle in the collided group. And just so that we can see that it works, I'm going to make this again 5 and override its visibility in the viewport, the color in the viewport. So when I press play, it's going to turn red when it strikes. Boink. There you go. So we have now a single particle which we know has collided. The minute it turns red, that means that it has collided. So that's the moment we want to make it spawn, right? So you use a reproduce in the collided group. Now the question is, what do you want to do after that and how many particles? I'm going to create 50 particles, right, per particle. And once it reproduces, I'm going to kill the source. So this original particle is going to die. And that's quite unfortunate, but it does happen sometimes. It's going to emit into particle group 1. And let's call this reproduced. So the reproduce is reproducing in a new group, which you can do whatever you want. You can return it to the original group. You can be very careful with positive feedback loops when you're reproducing, because if you put this out here, it will reproduce even on its own reproduced particles, right? So be very, very careful about this. You can really run into the hundreds of millions of particles within a few frames. So in this particular case, this is going to reproduce for whatever particle exists in the collided group. And that is just one now. I just want to go to my properties here and say, let's do a random direction. And let's give them, I don't know, some life. Give them some lifetime. They're going to live for 20 frames, give or take 10. I don't want them to inherit the lifetime from the previous particle. So let's go through this one more time. Our basic emitter emits a single particle in the particle group. When this particle collides, I'm going to put it in here just to make sure that not all particles collide and create this feedback loop. When this one particle collides, it switches group and goes into the collided. In the collided, we've put the reproduce as a child. So for any particle that exists in the collided, it's going to spawn 50 particles per particle. It's going to kill the source, and that's pretty much it. So let's go. Boink. There you go. And that's your little explosion. You can go to the reproduced and set this to 5 and set the color to blue, because we've got green, we've got red, and now we have blue. So green emits, red instantly, and now there you go. So that's how you do it. And this is going to become a tutorial with more words and all that nice stuff. Excellent. So let me untag this. And let's see this question here. Can I apply material and texture to store selection tag? Let me think. All right, let's think about this. Apply material and texture to store selection tag. You can't store a selection tag. I mean, I need to show my face because I'm scratching my chin. It's very serious. You can't store a selection in a material, but if you do have a material, you can convert it into a selection. Now, although that may not be your question, I'm going to show it anyway, because that's what I do here. And let's do the opposite, because why not? Let's assume you have a sphere and you want to create, let's make it dense and icosahedron, right? So we can see this, right? So what you can do is you can go and create from the other tags a polygon selection. And in the polygon selection, first of all, some things have been renamed. We use transfer, and the transfer can be property transfer, which is the old VAMP, but it's live, or fields. Now, in the fields, you can use a shader field. Right, here's a shader field. And the shader field itself, which is similar to the shader effector, and you can actually use the material properties of a material you've applied to this, but it has to be a standard cinema 4D material, right? That's so new standard material. Let's go here and create a tile in the color channel. You can put it in any channel you want. Let's go and create a tile. Surfaces, tiles. There you go. That's my tile. And this, let's apply it here. So it gets the UV from that. In the shader field, what you can do, you can say, get the color channel from this material tag. And if you double click on this, now because this is a procedural object, we won't be able to see the selection. What I can do though, is create another random material. It's any material I want, a red Redshift material. Put it here and drag the selection in here. And this should overwrite that one. Why isn't this overriding this one? I applied, right, let's make it editable here and double click here so you can see. Oh, I don't have any black and whites. That needs black and white. So the shader field, all right, let me see how I'm going to make this work. It's selecting nothing. Let's see if it requires, there you go. My tolerance was too low because the selection is on or off. So let me undo a few times. Go back to my proper editable sphere. Make sure that your tolerance is large enough, because a polygon selection is either on or off. We either have a polygon selected or we don't have a polygon selected. But if the colors you're using here are not within the range of, black and white, there's no contrast. If this is too low, then nothing is selected because the colors are too low, because this is sort of a gray thingy. But now you can change this, and now it's exactly what you would expect. This material is only applied to that selection. So this red, maybe red wasn't the best color to do this. Maybe I need to make it green. There you go. Now it's a bit more obvious what it's doing. So you can do the opposite. You can use a standard material, and this can be any texture you want, and using your tolerance to create a selection. The other way now, if you want to record a selection, if you want to record selection as a texture, you could do some sort of baking, even with Cinema 4D. Let's assume that in here I have a random field. And let me just go and put this here so we can see it, right? I'm using this as a way to visualize what's going on. Let's make this global. And I've applied my polygon selection. Let me render this for a second. All right. So, oh yeah, I've got 92. So I did the opposite. I forgot to reduce the tolerance. Let's put 50%. What you're seeing now is an animated noise, which you want to store as a color or something like that. What you can do, you can use a black material here, and you can make another one, which is a white material. You can stack them up. And now if you bake this as a sequence, you've essentially stored that selection, and you can read it as an animated material then to restore that selection by using the technique I showed you earlier with the shader effector. So the answer is probably yes, but it all depends. So the answer to this question, apply material and texture to store selection. If that wasn't the question, I apologize. But this is sort of the way to do what I think the question was about. Okay, let me stop this. I was just about to click the pause on my feedback monitor. It's going to be a hard day. So let's go. Let's see. Boop. Basil, one of the developers of the particles. So as far as in the collide modifier, there's a target group. You can send, oh yeah, we did that. Basil told me about that. He taught me that. So anything I know about particles, it was the developers and the people involved in the system. I take no, well, I did some of things. I did some inventions of my own with setups, but everything I know, I owe it to them. Okay. let's see. There we go. How can I bake a vertex map growth in Alembic? By baking a vertex map growth in Alembic. All right, let's go and see this. This is going to be interesting. All right, so to grow a vertex map, you can either do it manually. I'm going to use just an object. I'm not going to use any intricate object. And I like icosahedrons because they're relatively equidistant, the edges. So I'm just going to increase this. And I'm going to make this editable because I don't have to, but I will. Now, let's go and create a vertex map. Vertex map. And let's go and click a little dab here. So this is my initial seed of data. Good. If you go here now and let's use transfer, go to fields, it creates this freeze layer which contains that data. Now I can use another freeze layer, or I can tell this to grow. And now this is going to grow. And of course, you can go to the radius here and you can add a random field in the radius. And here we have that radius value. So now that noise is going to tell us how much the radius is going to be based on the noise. So let's do that. Now this should grow a bit more interesting. And if you add a bit of animation, it's going to close the gaps as well. Right, rewind. There you go. So that's sort of a growth. Now this vertex map, if you bake this as an Alembic, it should work. So let's see what happens here. So bake as Alembic, and let me pull this over here. Let me go to my special folder, today's folder. I'm going to select this folder, and it's exporting the Alembic. And that Alembic here should have the data baked. There you go. There's your baked data. So that's all you have to do. Just bake as Alembic and delete. Excellent. So where were we? Bake. Let's see. That's done. Didn't show in the Alembic. How to do that? It should show. So replicate what I did, and if it doesn't work, scene specific. Scene specific. That's what I said. Hello, Gene. Is there a way to... All right, let's see. Is there a way to properly delete clones not using the plane and scale? Oh, visibility. So with MoGraph, not only... So I guess the question is, I have a bunch of cubes, most important object in 3D, and I want to hide some of these clones. You can do it using scale, of course, or that's why there's a particular show or hide. So you're going to create a MoGraph selection. So go here and create a MoGraph selection. And let's select this one, and this one. And then with those selected, you can go and you can hide selected. Boink. There you go. So you hid these. These are not visible anymore. So that will be the way to do that. And you can control this using fields as well. So you can hide and show them. You go use fields, delete this, and let's put a linear field and move it around. And this is going to hide and show. Right? That's pretty much how you would do that. So let's go down the list. And again, if that wasn't the question exactly, send a scene. Let's go fgo. It's a follow-up. I should add that if you want to see that when you bring a Mixamo animation, you need to convert current take to new document. Yeah, it's so the way Mixamo is, you're going to convert it. So Mixamo, when you bring in a Mixamo file, it comes in as a multi-take file, and you need to select that take and create new something from take. It says new scene from take. That's what you need to do. But in any case, that's something you do need to do because that's the way that the Mixamo files are stored. Okay, let's see. Box emitter with a slot. What is this, Ryan? Can you make a box emitter with a shot of particles with a box emitter with a shot of particles with 0 velocity and then animate the sphere to move through them? Yeah, I don't know why you shouldn't be able to do that. Okay, let's do some 0 velocity particles. Let's do a basic emitter. Let's set it to cube. Let's set it to shot. Let's set it to 10,000. And let's set this to 0 speed. And here our particle, always extend this to large number. There you go, your particles. And let's take my sphere. Let's see what happens here. Let's add our collider. Let's animate the sphere. Of course, let's add a collide. And let's animate this sphere from here to here and see what happens. Let's see. What's going to happen here? Yep. And I think that if you go and you set this to something like 8, we're going to get a much better distribution. Huh. Let's see what else we can do here. Both. There you go. Nice stuff. Nice stuff. You can add a follow surface attract, or you can go here and do a follow or something like that and mix things up a bit, and it's going to look a bit more interesting. Good. Let's see, what else do we have here? How do you use Redshift material in shader effector? You can't use a shader. So Peaceful Man, you cannot use a Redshift material in a shader effector, unfortunately. Ahmed, at Noseman GR, send them if you have Twixer. If you don't, that's a good question. Do we have, is that page? Let me quickly check my, let's quickly check this. Ask a question. We don't have an option to send a file. Ask the trainer at maxon.net. But let me know as well. Just post something. The best way for me is using DM on Twitter, because I do watch it. I do need it. I don't have to go to my email all the time. So if that's possible, please do that. If not, let me know in the chat. All right. How can one simulate kinetic sculptures? Basically, center of mass, gravity, and wind forces. Should be possible. I have no. Oh, I did a setup with the old system. I don't know where it is because I did it 11 years ago. But you can do that. I haven't tried it with the new rigid bodies, but yeah, you can. I did one of those. What's the guy's name? Goes on the beach and they sort of walk around. But it is possible, at least with a bullet engine. Okay. Question: is there a way to make particles and clones automatically glow when they get within a specified distance from another object? Yeah, I mean, do you want it particles? Do you want it clones? I would assume. The only reason this gets a bit tricky, there is a potential solution, is that if you want color and emission, if you want both of these parameters, we don't have an extra channel to add that information unless you use a weight. You can do that. I think you can read the weights. That's actually a question, interesting question. With particles, I usually use the opacity channel. So you can use a field modifier to change the alpha channel and use the alpha channel value as a emission. We don't have custom attributes, at least yet. as far as MoGraph is concerned, so let me check out. So user data. So if I go a vertex, sorry, a weight is it's a scalar. Let's see if it has MoGraph, normalized, offset, time offset, fall of weight. Wait, here it is. All right, let's try this. Let's do this. Let's do it with clones first. I'm going to go and going to create some cubes. Boopy doopy doo. I'm going to increase the cubes. Good. And let's add a few of these and a few of these. Good. Now, in terms of the proximity, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use so if you want an object, let's say we have a sphere, and when this sphere or whatever object comes close, anything that's within the proximity of this sphere, we want it to change the weight, right? That's what we need to do, because let's say the color is a random color. So let's go and do a random effector and tell the random effector to be between 0 and 100%, because negative colors don't exist. And go here and say color mode, effector color. So these are the colors. These are the colors we want to render in Redshift. But I want to glow as well. So I need to hijack another parameter. This is going to be the weight. I'm going to go to the cloner and tell it to use a plane effector. And what I need to do here is say that the weight transform, the weighting of each clone, is controlled by this plane effector. Now, if I go here and in the transform show the weight, this should control the weighting. 0, 1, 0, 1. Good. But because the plane effector has fields, I can take my sphere or whatever object and drag it in here and tell it to probe the surface. And I guess, let's say 40 centimeters. If I bring the sphere close, you can see that the weight is changing. Good. So I've got my effect. Now I'm going to make this sphere not render so that it doesn't impede. So we have some weights here. And of course, you can change the way you can say volume. So the whole sphere now affects everything, not just the surface. Anything inside the sphere is going to have a weighting value of 1, everything outside a weighting value of 0. Let's switch to Redshift. Good. You can actually clear the frame buffer. Isn't that fantastic? So here are our colors, and you can see that the color is changing. I do not want to change the color, so I turn off the color. I just want the weight. Now I want to get that information. So put the material on this. It's all going to go gray. Let's go and get a user data. A color user data with MoGraph color is going to go in the color channel. And a user data scalar or float or whatever you want to call it, I'm going to get the weight. Let's go to the, down here, emission. And let's set the emission to 10. And let's expose the emission color, control, click on the dot, and put this here. And there you have it. Now the sphere controls which ones are lighting up, whatever's in the volume. So this is what you're going to do. Now, if it's a simplified object, you can use a spherical field or something like that. But if you want it to be controlled by the surface of the volume of the object, this is what would be the case. Hopefully that answers that question. Now I need to find where that question, all right, cloners, automatic glow, we get within specified distance of another object. In terms of particles, you would do the same thing, but we don't have a weighting. You have to hijack something else, maybe the opacity. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to my notes, because I'm going to make a tutorial about this. And I'm going to do a hijack. I'm typing in my notes. Hijack the capacity for emission. There are other ways to do it, or you can hijack other parameters if you don't need them, but that's for different um, a different subject. Okay, particles are amazing. Yes, they are. Can we pop a balloon using particles? Right. This is actually a good question because currently the way particles work is unidirectional. They will be affected by a simulation object, but they will not affect the simulation object. If you want that to happen, you need to clone simulate objects on the particles, and then they will affect it. So um, if you can pop a balloon using any object, then under with that same principle, you could. Okay, with a rendering of the environment in Redshift, I've been running into some. Uh, Fabio, I think it's your operating system. No, I don't know. That was a joke. Yeah, we need to. You need to send the scene. Anything that has to do with crashes or things that or behave, that you're doing the right thing, but they behave wrongfully. It's better to open a ticket with tech support, because it's how do I render an environment? We can tell you, but if it crashes, absolutely nothing we can do here. Okay, let's see the next one. I'm just going down the question. How can you create a shockwave of particles when two objects collide, like a sphere falling and hitting the floor? Well, how can we trigger? I mean, how can we trigger? So we do have in the bullet engine the ability to use trigger and ghost objects and ghost colliders to trigger some of the events. Um, we can't get those triggers. It has to be pretty manual to do it, to find the moment when they collide and then start your emission. In case you didn't know, let me get rid of this and this and this and this and this. Okay, just to get some room here. So in case you didn't know, if you have an emitter, you can control the emission start and stop. Okay, so if you put a range here, you can start from frame 0 or whatever frame 100, and shoot particles for 2 frames. So per frame. So it's going to create 20,000 particles in that particular case. Let me remove everything else. So you can find when the trigger happens, and it's going to go now. Boom, and shoot those particles. There you go. So that will be the way to do it. And of course, if you want them to be a sort of shockwave, you will set this to radial. You're going to rotate this 90 degrees, maybe make it into a circle. So now at 100 frames, I should have put it earlier, but it doesn't matter. We're going to go boing. There you go, shockwave. Yep. Okay, let's see. You're going vertex map selection. Try to bake this in Alembic, and vertex maps don't show in Alembic. Oh, Anthony. Yeah, I think that's the question I answered earlier. And some answers by Basil over there. So let's see. How to use, let's see if I get this. How to use Maxon noise mask in materials to clone it. You can't. This keeps coming up. You cannot, you're talking about Redshift. We cannot use Redshift materials in MoGraph currently. So I apologize for that. You have to find a way to find a noise that's similar, because currently the Maxon noise and in the standard material, standard Cinema 4D material, and the same Maxon noise in Redshift, there's still difference because of the different architectures between CPU and GPU. I think they're working on a potential solution. I'm not sure, but these are obvious things that as things develop, there's going to be a bit more overlap in these things. If you feel that it's very urgent, just contact contact your Maxon representative or tech support and tell them how important it is, because they need to know, Maxon needs to know how things affect your everyday usage of the software. Let's see what else. I'm just going, thanks a lot. It was really nice. Oh, we ran out of questions. No way. How can we run out of questions and we've only overrun by 11 minutes? That's disgraceful. Let's see if I missed, because I probably missed a few questions here. Let's see. Let's see. I'm just reading through the comments. I can sing a song in the meantime. Yeah, I don't know if I missed anything. If I did, please forgive me. Please forgive me. Anyhow, can't see any new questions. Is anyone unhappy from today's? Right. I don't want people that have been happy. I want to, if anyone feels that they were underserved by today's performance, I'd like to know. Oh, there is a question, but I'd like to know. I'll give you 5 seconds to say, no, I'm not happy. Come on. Come on. So I'm going to read the question while someone says that I'm not happy. So let's go here. Question: Dancers for peas. I have been trying to create falling vapor with Pyro, but it seems to be very slow. Would it be easier with new particles? Well, why is it slow? I think it's because you're making your voxel very small, so it has to deal with a lot of data. So let me think. So recently, I was assisting tech support, and there was a client scene. I had very, very small voxel size, right? Very small voxel size. And there was, very good graphics cards and all that. But it was overloading the GPU to the point where it couldn't render past the frame, because GPU and volumes exist. Sorry, Redshift and volumes exist on the GPU, and they do share memory and all that kind of stuff. So there were a few things that sped up everything quite significantly. One of them, which, in my view, is very important. I'm just going to say it because it was a good learning moment. Let's go and add some Pyro here. So simulation and Pyro emit, right? So we have this Pyro emit. Let's say we only want the vapor, right? And you don't have any temperature. You just have your excellent. You have your density. Let's do a slight little wind. I say wind and I add turbulence. I'm telling you, it's bad day. I'm joking. It's a brilliant day. 90 degrees, so it sort of blows things downwards. Let's go here and increase this. Increase this. There you go. So things are falling. Let's add a boom, turbulence. Do this just to get a bit more turbulence. Going a bit more turbulence. Come on. And make the wind a bit smaller, 150. Let's say we have our little dry ice here. Now let's go and make our voxel size, let's say 1.5, right? So I need to restart this. It is going to get a bit slower. We know that. Now, when you are caching this, it's very important to only cache the grids you need. Don't leave them at default. So you're not using any temperature. Even if it's empty, it does try to export something as far as I know. If you're not going to upres it, you don't need velocity. Velocity is a vector. It takes up 3 times more of your memory. So this is going to be very, very cheap. And it, to a certain extent, it's going to improve the speed of exporting and rendering and all that kind of stuff. If that wasn't the case, because the speed of your simulation, it does depend on how small your voxel size is. Now, there are some ways you can change the tree settings and change the padding so that it's less, and it allows, for a lot of things, it's not going to show you any difference. But let's make this 0.5 and see what happens here. I'm getting quite curious now. Good. And you can add more smoke. I guess it's scene dependent. Send me the scene if you want, and we'll see if we can do any optimizations. And I can talk to people. My people can talk to your people and all that. Okay. Let's see a few more questions. I don't mind if I overrun a bit more. A way to use cloth dynamics on a ribbon object and control the movement along a path. You could, by using the mix animation to a certain extent. This will be very similar to the tutorial I did about the blinds if you go to my original series, but nonetheless, let's try this just out of fun and see what happens here. Let me think. What would be the best way to do this? First of all, let's make a spline. And because I'm lazy, I'm just going to make a helix. There you go. Now I'm going to get a plane. Good. And let's take this plane and make it narrower. And add a few more segments here. Good. Now I'm going to take this plane and use a spline wrap. The spline wrap, I'm going to use the helix. Good. And I'm going to not fit, but keep the length. And in the rotation, I can bank it a bit. Good. I can control the offset here. And if we want, let's animate this. You know why? Because we can. Let's do that. Good. Extend this by, I don't know, 200. And now we have this animation. So this is the animation, but I want this to be ribbony style. Right click and let's add a cloth. Go to the mix animation and add with force. That this is more, it's more easygoing. It takes each point and applies a little force to bring it to the animated position. So it's trying to do its thing here. Oh, maybe more. Maybe I need more of this. So now you have a combination of both of these things going on. Let's increase this to 160. See what happens. Let's go and add a turbulence. And let's turn off those annoying lines. Turbulence. Let's go to this and set the strength to something less. The question is how the mix is going to occur. But in any case, this will be the technique you would use to mix your ribbon deterministic animation, your keyframed animation, with simulations. The reason it sort of crimples there is because it's becoming small on one side and it's trying to retain, and of course retain the sizes, and of course go and play with it. Let's add some stretchiness, let's add more bendiness, make it a bit more nice and all that. But this will be the general method you would use. Okay, what else do we have here? Keeps moving. This keeps moving. You're personally ecstatic. I'm glad. How can we create a network effect using the turn modifier? Watch one of my new university tutorials. I have one that does right angles. Let me show you the scene and tell me if you like that. Let me go and find it. I'll be with you in a second. Boop, 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 boop. This is like elevator music. When I do that, it's to, there we go. So this is the setup I'm showing in the tutorial how to do it, if this is what you want. So watch the tutorial. It's very simple. It's just one thing that does something multiplied 4 times for 4 different directions. If this is what you want, go watch the tutorials. That's my advice for today. Okay. Andreas is joyous. Good. Control the series of particle modifiers. The answer is no. So if I brought in particles, points from another app, is there a way to control them with for these particle modifiers? No. That's the simple question. You can bring them in as an alembic and, let's say, do some stuff using thinking particles, but not using our own modifiers. Maybe you can bring them in and you can spawn, right? So let's assume you have a particle. You can bring it as points, so you can open and right. Let me see here. Let's go and let me go and find an ABC. I think I have a T-Rex. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this the other way. I'm going to go and type Rex. I'm going to get the T-Rex scene. Good. I'm going to go to T-Rex and just grab the body and turn off this. And let's go here and put it under a connect object. No teeth. That's a very friendly dinosaur, right? So let's go make sure we don't have any world points. And let's go and save this as an Alembic. I'm just going to go for 60 frames here. Let me try this. So I'm doing it with an object. I think that's a bad idea. Wait, I'm trying to think. So we bring in an Alembic file. This is an Alembic file. And I'm bringing it in as thinking particles. There you go, thinking particles. And actually, I'm changing my mind now. Let's bring it back in. I'm going to bring it as a polygon object. Yeah, whatever. So these are points, right? So I brought in a particle simulation. This was made with our particle system, but this can be any particle system where I bring I bring it in as geometry. It can be any software. And the vertex colors are for the vectors and vertex maps are for the floats and integers and so forth. Because this is a point object, I could reproduce, or I can use a mesh emitter to emit from points. So although I'm not specifically controlling this because this is already controlled, it's been taken care of, I could do some sort of reproduction on each and every one of these points and reproduce a new point, something like that. Maybe even use a stick to keep them on the points. Yeah, this is something I need to look at. My question for you, so the return question is, uh, what kind of control are you expecting? So we have a particle simulation that does something. What would you like to do to this? To how do you want to change the particles? Because either a particle has its motion or the motion is simulated. What exactly would you like to do in between and how to control it? That will be my counter question. Okay. Oh, Fabio found an issue. Scene scale has significant impact on the volume processing. Um, yeah, that could be the case. If you feel it's a bug, let me think. Oh, scene scale. Maybe because the same voxel at a different scale is smaller, therefore it generates more voxels per unit. It could be an actual reason for that. Okay, but I'm glad you found the solution. And even if my answer doesn't provide you with a solution, the fact that you ask the question will lead you to a solution. It's a universe thing, right? Okay. Um, right. With the new particle system, is there the possibility to target an object and land on the surface? Uh, you could, because we can turn towards an object. Yeah, let's do a combination of this. Wow, so many files. Okay, good. Let's create a new one. Let's get a little sphere. And let's make it a collider. Let's emit some particles. And first of all, I want to turn towards a target. And the target is the sphere. So now let's make this 90,000 frames. So many frames. Move this. They're trying to sort of follow this, right? Trying to go where this is. Good. So the second thing I can do now is do a surface attract. I get land on the surface or something like that will stick. And yeah, let's see how this goes. So something like that. So that will be sort of what you're trying to do here. And you can inherit the velocity, I think. Apply object velocity here. Let's see, that's going to make it interesting. Anyway, this is sort of the way you're going to go about doing this, by combining the target and combining. Now, you would say, well, I don't want it to happen immediately. I want it to happen when it comes in a proximity. Well, what you can do here is you can use a field condition. The field condition in this particle group, and I'm going to put in the field condition a spherical field. That spherical field, I'm going to make it a child of the sphere, so it follows that sphere. I'm going to make it bigger. And now I'm going to tell it to turn and attract. What am I doing? Only when the field condition is met. So what this is going to do now is, while the particles are outside the influence of the sphere, they will not be attracted. When they come inside the influence of the sphere, they should be attracted. Yeah, of course. There you go. Come here, you buggers. You can just do this and move things around and tell your colleagues that you're playing around. Now, if this exits too fast, then they're going to continue going about their own way. But in any case, this should be some sort of way to concoct this. And I've been showing this all the time. I hope, oh my Lord, sorry about that. I hope my answer, the limited visibility was okay. So I'm going to go for another couple of questions, and then it's going to be half an hour overrun. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Yeah, and you can go over. This is a good reply. Generally, if you go over Chris Schmidt's Rocky Lasso's video, they go through he goes through everything. So don't worry about it. Okay. Anything else here? Exclude forces. Right. This is an interesting one. For particles. So this is something I'm going to do a tutorial on, but I'm going to show you. It's a little tricky, hacky thingy doodly, right? We don't have an explicit way of excluding forces from particles, right? So go here. We get our particles going around. And so no forces here, and all that. What you could do, and this is a trick, you create an empty particle group. Empty group. And because we have the hierarchy, the hierarchy that controls what is affecting and what not, you can just put this in an empty group. There you go. So any forces you want to use to affect Pyro, but you don't want to use to affect particles, so that then the particles are going to be affected by the Pyro itself, You just put it in an empty group, and that's the easy solution. Okay. What is this? Can you show the features? No, I haven't touched it. I have no idea how it works. I think Chris showed that. All right. Last question. How would you simulate a flock of birds with a new particle system? How you control their movement? The flock modifier. That will be, we have a flock modifier that does that. And now the parameters, just play around. It has a cohesion strength, how fast they come together, and how close they come together, and all that. And you can even use the predator prey to get some things to chase other things. So you can make a combination of predator prey to control the main motion of the flocks, and then flocking and so forth. Okay. And let's see what Basil says. Another is to nest your particle setup under a simulation of. Okay, so let me show you what that is. Now, I do show it in one of my tutorials, but there's been a new addition added here. When you use a simulation scene, so simulation scene 1, and this works only with particles. If you create your basic emitter and whatnot, and you put them under the particles scene here, then this simulation scene owns whatever is under it. So the turbulence here now is owned by this. The turbulence out here, it's not owned by this. Right? So this is another way to do it. You just put your particle simulation in here. And yep, that's another new thing. Okay. This is the last one. No more questions. We're done. Okay. You bring 1 million static points from Houdini, and I want to further drive them with some of these conditions and forces. Right, static points. You will just go and reproduce. I had to go and read it. I thought about rebirth. I said, what am I talking about? So you would just get those 1 million points. Let's find that file where I had, which I closed. Right. Let's bring it in again. So there we go. Bring it in as polygon object. Let's assume we only want one frame from this. Let's assume these are our points. Let's make it like that. So I have all these points here. This is just a static frame of points. You go and do a mesh emitter. The mesh emitter is going to emit from this hash, and I want to emit from points, and I'm going to emit a shot, and it's going to be, but shot and constant is 1 per point or 1 per frame or 1 per second. I have a tutorial to show you how to shoot many per point. But anyway, here's a shot, and you can start by saying my particles are going to be static, and I'm going to make them a bit bigger. And now when I generate them, they're going to be in all those positions. There they go. And now you can go and do whatever you want with them. So a mesh emitter in your particular case will allow you to emit these particles in those positions and then do whatever you want with them. That will be the case. So you can use a field condition for this particle group, and in the field condition, I'm going to add a linear field and put it on the plus Z over there, and you put a gravity, simplest way to try it, put a gravity under here. So now when my field condition moves through, they're going to start falling. So that will be the way to do that. Anyhow, okie doke. We're good. We're done for today. Let me bring up my face. Excellent. I need to prepare my closing videos. So let me see. Did anyone say they didn't like it? Good. That's fantastic. There are more questions. Please go to that page. Let me bring up that page again, because that's the important one. There we go. So go to this page here. I'm going to copy it and go to the comments and paste it. The boom. Let's see. Good. So go to that page, and ask your questions. Yeah, I think we need a way to add files as well. Yeah. And yes, thank you very much for participating. I didn't see what the code. Oh, let me see if I find the code. Where's the code? Code. Yep. Oh, it's just like previous week. I forgot to give you the code. So let me go and post the code. The code, or as I say in Germany, the code. This is the code for the t-shirt, which is this link over here. And everything is out. Good. So go claim your t-shirt. Watch my particle series here, and of course, all the other new stuff and the great tutorials from everyone else. But start with mine. And compositing with AOVs, there were some questions about the AOVs and the object IDs and all that. Watch the great stuff that Something's Awry has created for us. And I think with that, we are done. I'm going to send my closing seams down. Oh, I forgot. Use this to ask your questions. Take a screen grab now. You have 3 seconds. Let me go. Hi, you have 3 seconds. Right, you can go the other way. You have 3 seconds. So take the screen grab at the screen, whatever, and use that to ask your questions if you don't want to type all that stuff or copy paste. And it's going in 3, 2, 1. Good. Thank you very much for attending. Hope to see you soon again. And I'm trying to find what I need to do to close. There we go. Bye-bye.